What's up, YouTube? Angry Jackalope Raw Brick. We last left off on chapter 30. Let's take a look here. So 30. We'll try to get to 34. I'm going to try to get to 34. That's the goal. That's the game plan. Let's try it out here. All right? Here we go. Chapter 30. Closing in. December 27, 2011, Las Vegas, 1:25 p.m. The ambulance brought Tim and Joy to the local emergency room where they were admitted and attended to. Tim was stitched up quickly and he waited impatiently while they examined Joy. The nurse practitioner which examined Joy was a tall, skinny man with dark skin and deep, purplish gums. His breath smelled winter fresh as if he had just brushed his teeth. The teeth were too white for Joy, and his dark skin made their whiteness even more brilliant. His hands were cold and strong. He was gentle with her, but her head felt like it had been hit with a mallet. "My name is Jeffrey Singh. I'm going to be taking care of you. So what happened to you?" he asked while he cleaned the wound. "I really couldn't tell you. One minute I'm working, and the next I'm outside with a friend who told me I was hurt in some kind of explosion." "Well, you have a nasty little cut here. I'm going to need to numb you up to stitch you up. You okay with that?" Joy slowly nodded. "Yeah." He worked quickly and was done suturing her within 20 minutes. The 20 minutes felt like an eternity to her. She was more than paranoid, and she watched the NP like a hawk, ready to strike out if she needed to. The name she had given to them was Jamie Grant, which was the name of her first-grade best friend. Joy wondered how Tim was, and she was still trembling when the NP finished. "There you go. Good as new. How are you feeling? Any dizziness? Headaches?" "No. Just was sore around the area," Joy lied. She wasn't concerned about any headaches. She wanted to find Tim and get out fast. "Okay. Well, we usually like to keep a head trauma for 24 hours for observation." "I'd rather not. I don't have any insurance, and I need to take care of my kids at home. They'll be home from school soon, and I need to be there." He shrugged. "That's fine. You understand you are awaiting treatment. You are free to go. Do you have a ride?" She nodded. "Yes, my friend will pick me up." "Fine. I see you have paperwork still to finish filling out. I'll have another document for you to sign as well. Hang on a sec. I'll have one of the nurses bring it to you. You take care, okay?" Joy smiled and watched as he walked out the room. She could see a couple of police officers down the hall, and she wondered again where Tim was. A few minutes passed and the door opened. Tim walked in quickly with a slight limp, looking like a little old man. "Ready to blow this joint?" he asked with a grin. She nodded. "Okay, shift, and let's slide out." Tim closed his eyes, and suddenly he was a younger man with strong features and nice clothing. He opened his eyes and looked at Joy. "How's this?" She smiled. "You're getting better at it." He nodded. She focused, and her head throbbed badly. She shifted into a young girl with features similar to the ones that Tim had. "Ah, you're my daughter. Who's your daddy?" She flashed Tim a look. "I can't believe you're still cracking fucking jokes." Tim nodded as he helped her get off the gurney. When she stood up, she nearly fell to the floor. Tim grabbed her and lifted her slightly. "I gotcha. Take it easy." Tim quickly glanced out the door and saw the coast seemed clear. They walked outside and headed for the exit. As they got near it, Tim saw several large men approaching the sliding door. He leaned against the wall and held Joy there. The men walked past them, and Tim avoided eye contact and focused on his breathing and heartbeat. He worked at staying calm. When they passed, he turned to head to the door. A man was there staring intently at Tim. The man was wearing an expensive suit and a deep blood-red tie. He saw the man noticed his slight limp. The man sniffed once and smiled. Tim looked at the man, and something inside of Tim screamed for him to run. "Tim, is that you, Tim?" asked the man. "No, my name's not Tim. I don't know who you think I am. I'm just here with my daughter." "Joy." The man regarded both of them with a grin. Tim thought for a moment of lashing out and running when suddenly he felt icy cold ends of a pistol on the back of his head. "Let's not do a repeat of the casino. You try something like that here, a whole lot of innocent people are going to get hurt." Tim was confused. How could this man know who they were? "I could tell by your expression on your face you're wondering how I know it's you beneath those disguises. One thing is the same. Your scent. Your blood scent, to be specific. Once I know it, I know you. You know you left enough back at the casino." Tim wondered if he was fast enough, if he could get the gun to shift off his head and aim it at the man. "Tim, we have much to discuss. The man behind Tim lowered the gun to the small of his back and pressed in hard. He could see another man who took position behind Joy. Tim glanced at Joy, who was pale and breathing heavy. Yeah, like what exactly? Well, for starters, how does a human shift his form? How does a human do the type of damage you did back at the casino? And finally, how did a couple of humans manage to kill Brill? Brill? You mean the guy who attacked us? Yes. Tell your butt boys to drop their guns and I'd be happy to show you. And we're just starting to develop a dialogue. Threats? Tim, I think you really should take notice of the precarious position you're in. Where's Kuthanaga? Kutha what? Fine, Tim. You want to play games? Good. I like games. I have a bunch. I can't wait to play with you. Let's go. He turned to leave the way when he saw a faint blur. He turned to look at Tim and Joy, who had simply vanished. A low growl filled his throat, and he bit so hard in his mouth that blood filled it instantly. What the hell? One of the men said. Where'd they go? Asked another. Richard shook his head and motioned for the men to follow him. What are your orders? One asked. We're done here. I need the inventory of Bellagio's suit examined immediately. I want this checked out as well. He pulled a water bottle filled with Tim's earth milk in it. The larger of the two men collected the bottles and walked back outside. Richard took a couple of breaths and shook his arms quickly. Several miles away, a confused Tim and Joy stood on the side of the highway and quickly shielded their eyes from the bright sun. Kuthanaga stood there, examining them. What happened? Asked Tim. I caught up with you and brought you here. How? I carried both of you as I bent time. You bent time? Kuthanaga nodded, positioned his hand over Joy's head. He examined her memories of the time that he was gone and glossed over their intimate moments and just focused on the confrontations. One fact Joy was unaware of was that the bullet was flying true. Somehow she had managed to block the bullet and send it in a different trajectory, which caused only minor injury to her. He nodded and motioned over her wound, which quickly healed, and only a faint pink scar was barely visible as the hair filled back in quickly. Joy sighed and was happy as the pain passed. Kuthanaga also scanned Tim, and when he arrived at the conflict at the casino, he paused and stared at Tim. Amazing. What? Asked Tim. What you did at the casino should not be possible. In fact, your confrontation with the Drake in a suite should not have been so easy for you. The modifications I did to your rings would account for some of the object manipulations, but even the camouflage you created should not be possible. There's something I'm unaware of going on here. Tim shrugged. Man, this is your gig. We just stumbled on to how to use the rings, and to be honest, most of the time I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. Kuthanaga motioned over Tim's leg, and Tim felt the warmth spread across his legs and knew he was healed good as new. Well, we have time to figure it out. For now, we need to get across the country to Bimini. What the hell is Bimini? Asked Tim. It's an island near Florida, answered Joy. She is correct, and since I see that our position here is compromised, I need to move you to a safer location until the next mission. Tim nodded. He noticed Kuthanaga was studying him. What's up? Kuthanaga waved the question away and motioned for them to walk with him. Hey, Kuthanaga. Kuthanaga turned to face Tim. Yes? Thanks for doing what you did with the rings. Kuthanaga nodded. He was troubled. The rings were modified, that was true, but they were modified with only a small amount of conductor. The rings were of the right material, but there should have been no way the humans were doing what they were. He had put the material in so he'd be better able to communicate over great distances regardless if the phone was working. He was perplexed by the sudden rapid advancement of the manipulation of energy. He wondered what the Drakes were thinking about the humans. Oh shit, Kuthanaga faced Kim. What? The Earth's milk. It was either destroyed or they have it now. Kuthanaga smiled. It doesn't matter. It was only a matter of time before they got their hands on it anyway. Do not be alarmed. I have more for us all once we get to Bimini. Tim was relieved. He was doing the best he could and felt completely exhausted. They walked on for another few minutes. Hey, Kuth, sorry to keep interrupting your thoughts. You are not. What is it, Tim? Why are we walking? Where's the ride? We are almost to her. Her? Kuthanaga smiled as he saw a slight shimmer. Yes, her. Kuthanaga pointed at the shimmer, which Tim hadn't seen, but Joy had. I wondered what that was, said Joy. Kuthanaga noted that Joy was becoming very sensitive and was impressed. Sonari materialized and she smiled softly. You were able to save them? Kuthanaga smiled back. Yes, Thanks to you and Rachel, the timing was a little close for my liking, but yes, we were successful. Zenari examined Tim and Joy and looked confused. Kuthanaga, I can understand a woman, but why him? Young one. It doesn't completely matter the aura. Some humans can be measured by their actions as a whole. This one reminds me of a human I knew a long time ago. That human was a dear close friend of mine, and I have a feeling this one will not let me down. He has already come a long way in a short time. I am sure there are some you have come across which defy the superficial scans. Zenari thought of the woman who protected her children. Yes, you are correct. Tim walked forward and said, Hi, my name's Tim Christensen, and this is my wife, Joy. Hello, my name is Zenari. Zenari regarded Joy and smiled. Something about the human felt familiar and comfortable. Kuthanaga, we should be going. I am uncomfortable this close to the Drakes in pursuit. You have nothing to worry about. They will not be trying to pursue. They are not foolish or wasteful, but I do need to get back to my mirror. Get back. My mirror is reporting that something is happening and I want to be there. Tim, Joy, please, take Zenari's hand. I will be with you soon enough. Kuthanaga started to fade out. Joy looked at Tim and he shrugged. They took Zenari's hand and Tim was amazed by how smooth her skin was. Joy also noticed this and was about to say something when suddenly the air seemed very thin and Joy fought to take a breath. Tim had felt the sensation similar when he phased with Kuthanaga in New York and was getting used to it. Joy was lightheaded, her eyes were filled with brilliant flashing lights, and she was afraid she would pass out. She looked around, and the places she previously was at was no more. They were in a misty blackness with shades of color shifting in from all sides. Brilliant shades of blue swam around them as if it were a living thing. Light broke through, distinct shapes started forming, and Joy felt herself slipping out of consciousness. Suddenly she felt the grip of Zenari tighten, and it was all she needed to snap back into focus. A few seconds passed, and suddenly the three of them were standing on a beautiful beach of white sand. The water was the most amazing blue that Joy had ever seen. Tim whistled and looked around. Man, this is crazy. Zenari smiled. Wait until the convergence. You haven't seen beautiful yet. Convergence? Asked Joy. Zenari caught herself and wondered how much Kuthanaga had told them. What do you know of it? Well, I know what the word means. I'd like to know about what your definition is. Zenari looked down and felt foolish. It's not my place to discuss it. I've said too much already, and I must speak with Kuthanaga before I can say any more. Tim laughed. No worries. I'm smart enough to know that somehow you were able to let Kuthanaga know we were in trouble, so I ain't got no problems. Thanks for that, by the way. Zenari liked his spontaneity and nodded. It was my pleasure to help. Rachel walked up and examined Tim and Joy. It was my pleasure as well. It's good to finally meet you in the flesh. Lord knows I've seen a lot of you lately in my dreams. Tim had seen and been through too much to even begin to question what the cheerful woman said. He took it completely at face value, where Joy paused and said, Dreams? Rachel nodded. Yep, been dreaming about you folks for the better part of 2 weeks now. Never knew who you were before meeting Zenari and Kuthanaga. Joy smiled. That's cool, so you're kind of psychic then. Rachel nodded. Tim was exhausted and he looked at Zenari. Is there somewhere we can rest? I'm really tired. Zenari nodded and motioned for them to follow. So what are you guys doing here? Joy asked as they all walked. The wind was warm and fresh. Ocean breeze lifted Joy's spirits. Waiting for some event to happen, Zenari made a point to walk slowly, as she could see both Joy and Tim had been through a lot. The fatigue was apparent on Tim. Joy, on the other hand, was very good at hiding her feelings. Like what, if you don't mind me asking? They passed colorful, brightly painted houses, and Tim couldn't help but smile. They seemed so vibrant and happy. We don't know. Kuthanaga relocated us from Utah to here and told us to keep an eye out, and we'd know when it happened. Joy nodded. Kuthanaga's like that, huh? He asks you to do something, and then you find out when you find out? How long have you known him? Zenari approached a small purple building with the paint showing some wear and tear from the elements and opened the door. It creaked and groaned slightly. I've known Kuthanaga for a little over 2,000 human years? Human years? Yes. Year counting and time tracking is very basic to Anakai. We have a universal time and it's more abstract than your linear form. For example, we Anakai have 10 stages of our life. I'm entering my 5th cycle. Kuthanaga's on his 9th. The 10th is where we make preparations to rejoin the universe. We do not track these stages by days, years, or hours. They're by spiritual growth. Some take longer than others do, and they stay for longer periods. Anakai rejoin the universe either by choice or accidentally. So then you guys don't have birthdays or holidays? We do have celebrations on predetermined times, but they usually coincide with celestial events, and we prepare well in advance. The parties can last what you would call months. We have 3 large celebrations: birth of a new Anakai, the joining of 2 Anakai, and the merging of the Anakai with the universe. Wow. Sonari entered the building, and inside was a little small, but when Tim saw the couch, he was content to collapse into it. Immediately he started snoring. I see Tim sleeps easily. Joy nodded and smiled. We've had a rough day. I'm sorry for your pain. Is there anything I can do? Joy shook her head. No, Kuthanaga already healed us up. The sun shone through the window. Light reflections danced around on the walls and ceilings, and Joy scanned the room and saw there was a small wind chime hanging on a far window, dancing in a breeze. The shifting shells reflected the sunlight, and she noticed her arms and her side were heavy. She sat next to Tim and hugged him. Sonari watched over them until Joy too began to snore faintly. Rachel was quiet the whole time, and she saw Sonari head back outside. She followed, and when they were far enough where they were safe to speak and not disturb Tim and Joy, Rachel asked, So what do you think? Sonari took a deep breath. I think this is a calm that will soon break into a maelstrom. Rachel nodded. You have good instincts. I also feel the same. Rachel and Sonari stood there, looking at the horizon, and the only sound was the faint whispers of the wind as it gently played in their hair. Chapter 31, Initial Results, December 27, 2011, Maniwaki, Canada, 5:47 p.m. John had been diligent to keep the area clear of anyone, and patiently waited for Tall Brother to let him know when it would be okay to share the liquid discovery with others. He had been drinking it for days, and he was amazed. The taste never grew old and always changed. Additionally, he felt stronger, warmer, more alert, and had an overwhelming sense of well-being. John just arrived back to town when he saw the chief and made eye contact with him. Tall Brother waved for him to park and talk with him. John was excited. He hoped it was information from the scientists, friends of Tall Brother. He jogged over to the chief, who had a serious look upon his face. John, I've heard back from my friends. Something in his tone and posture made John uneasy. He suddenly realized he'd been drinking a lot of liquid and hoped the chief wasn't going to tell him it was toxic. Bad news? In a manner of speaking, yes. John's heart was beating. Please tell me, is it poison? The chief shook his head. No, nothing like that. The scientists have no idea what the liquid is. It changed constantly depending on who was looking at it, and they've determined one thing though. It is alive. Alive? Yes. That is how it changes its flavors. My friend Stacy thinks the liquid has some sort of intelligence. It knows what we desire and changes itself to match that. John didn't know how to respond. It wasn't poisonous. He didn't see anything wrong with it being alive. He suddenly shrugged. Well, it's safe then? As far as they could tell, yes. So why are you concerned? Why are you scared? Not scared. Concerned. I don't know what this liquid could do. Then Stacy also told me it has more nutritional content in a drop than a bottle of the vitamin drinks. It contained substances that they had never seen before. It was almost alien, she said. It came from the earth. Tall Brother nodded. He had been to the site many times while waiting for the results, and the liquid seemed to come from deep within the rock. A rock which had been there for as long as the chief could remember. Yes. The question before us now is this. Do we share this discovery with the outside world, or do we keep it for the tribe and other tribes? You know what they will do with it if we give it to the outsiders. John thought about it and stared at the chief. I would think we should share with all. The more we share, the better. The chief thought about it and seemed like the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. He knew it was just a matter of time before it got out. He was fearful of what it would mean. The Kitagan Zibi did not mind tourists and outsiders visiting, but he knew this would bring a wave of greedy, vile people who would flood the area like hungry wolves. I think you are right. We shall call everyone together and discuss this as a group. Whatever we decide shall be the path we walk. Kuthanaga sat nearby and listened intently. He watched Tall Brother and he nodded to himself. He understood why the chief was apprehensive, and he had good reason to feel that way. Human nature was far from what it once had been, and Kuthanaga knew the serene environment that the Kitagani Zibi had fought so long and hard to maintain was about to get the hardest test it had ever faced. Kuthanaga watched the chief and John walk off to gather the town elders to call a meeting. He was about to follow them when he felt a slight tingle at the base of his skull. He felt the contact of Rashnaga. Yes, Rashnaga, what is it? Chaos. I have never seen such display of wanton violence and brutality. Madness. Why are we even thinking about allowing the humans into the collective? Kuthanaga could feel the pain and anguish the young watcher was feeling. Relax, Rashnaga. Share with me what has happened. As you wish. Kuthnaga could feel a rush of emotions, almost as if the floodgates to 1,000 tortured souls filled his mind. Control, please. Control. Reshnaga caught himself. Calmness filled him. The presence of Kuthanaga had an effect which helped him deal with the situation. Kuthanaga could see everything unfold as he expected, with the town people hoarding and sharing with no problems. The liquid would replicate so quickly there seemed to be an infinite amount. Word spread quickly, and 24 hours had not even passed before military trucks showed up. At first, the military didn't do anything to upset the people. They just took samples and set up a few tents nearby. The people were questioned, and everything seemed to be calm and nonviolent. Second day, more military showed up, and they blocked off the area leading to the liquid. The town priest tried to reason with the soldiers that the liquid was a miracle sent by God to help the poor. The prayers were ignored as the soldiers held their lines and would not allow anyone to pass. This too didn't seem too problematic, as word spread that you could put the miracle liquid on any other liquid and it would make more. The entire town had its supply, and another day passed uneventful. The morning of the 27th, though, would bring the dark specter of death. Someone had started shooting, and many of the town awoke to the smell of burning flesh and sound of assault rifles. Another group of outsiders had heard the story of the liquid. These outsiders were part of the blood cartel, and they wanted the liquid. The military soldiers were ambushed and taken by surprise. The attack was quick and brutal. The soldiers were outmanned and outgunned. When the men started collecting the liquid in barrels and loading it on trucks, many of the towns stayed away and tried to hide within the confines of their homes. They sat quietly and prayed. One of the thugs took a small group, went door to door. They would burst into the house, take what they wanted. A few tried to fight back, and that's when the spark caused the violence to escalate. The town priest pleaded with the leader of the criminals and again tried to explain the liquid's a miracle and all could take from it. There was more than enough for everyone. The leader, a cruel, high-ranking foot soldier of the cartel, was called the Vulture, a name well deserved by one so dark and cruel. He laughed at the priest and shot him once between the eyes. The priest's body fell back and rolled towards the liquid. His blood flowed freely and mixed with the white liquid. A few seconds passed and the blood shifted to white. The Vulture motioned and the priest's body was retrieved and tossed away like trash. The men saw the killing of the priest, and it spurred them into dark desires. A few young women in the town were rounded up and gang raped. When the men were done, they executed them. The rest of the town was systematically executed. There was no exception. Children, to the elderly, were wiped out. The road ran red with blood, and Reshnaga watched and did nothing. He knew he alone would have been more than capable of killing the criminals. The cartel spent a few more hours loading up what they could carry, and as the evening fell, the town was silent. The only sound was the occasional flapping of buzzards, which wasted no time feasting. Kuthanaga broke the link when he saw a small girl, badly burned, being eaten by one of the raptors. Reshnaga knew the girl. She was the daughter of the family which had discovered the liquid initially. She had been one of the few which Reshnaga felt were worthy of the mark, and she was gone. "I'm sorry. I understand how you feel. I wish I could say I didn't expect this, but I did. This is necessary in a way. We cannot save all of them, brother." "You knew this would happen?" There was a tone in Reshnaga's voice. Kuthanaga had forgotten that many of the watchers had never seen violence in its baseless form. They had read about it and trained in combat, but had never seen it up close and personal, never felt the searing heat of the flames or the stench of rotting flesh. This is part of the humans. This is their nature. We have an almost impossible mission to do. Trust me, Reshnaga. If I thought there was any other way, I would have pursued it. There is a method in this madness. I only ask you do not carry the burden on yourself. The weight of this lies on my shoulders. The humans are exceptional, and it is usually in their darkest hour that the truly remarkable ones reveal themselves. The auras only give us a brief glimpse. I have seen with my own eyes the darkness of them shine with such brilliance. The darkest of them shine with such brilliance. Reshnaga listened in silence. He knew out of all of them Kuthanaga had spent the most time among the humans, and knew them the best. He felt as though his heart had been darkened by the senseless violence that had happened. The true irony was that the liquid still poured out. There was more liquid now than when the slaughter began. "Kuthanaga, I accept your offer to take this burden. I do not wish to carry it the rest of my life. When we are done, you shall take it." "Yes, Reshnaga, I will honor that request. I will ask you when we are done if you wish to learn from this event. If you do not, I will take it as my own. I swear." Reshnaga nodded. "Thank you. Do I still need to be here, or can I find another location to continue my markings?" You may leave if you wish. I can see where the rest of this is going. As you say. ᶠᶸᶜᵏ wiped a tear from his eye and sighed heavily. It was hard, and he knew it was only going to get worse as time went on. He knew it had to be done, and yet he was tormented by it at the same time. The weight was already becoming unbearable for him. He took a few moments to regain his composure and focus on ᶸᶜᵏ. ᶠᶸᶜᵏ? Yes, young one. How is Tim and Joy? They are sleeping. Are you okay? Yes, I am fine. I'm going to be checking with the other watchers to gauge their progress. I'm almost done here. I don't anticipate me being here for longer than 2 more days. I will then come to you there. Have you seen anything new yet? No, nothing yet to report. I do have a question, though. Yes. How much have you told them about the Convergence? Not much. Feel free to explain to them if you wish. It's not a secret. Is there anything I'm not to speak of? Do not discuss my personal past or the dreams that Rachel has had about the Drake and me. Okay. Thank you for your help, ᶸᶜᵏ. You're welcome, ᶠᶸᶜᵏ. He broke the connection and watched the sun slowly start to set. The sky was a deep burgundy, with shades of orange and yellow stretching high. He closed his eyes again and slowly reached out to the watchers to check in. Chapter 32, Tiamat Rising. December 27, 2011, Las Vegas, 11:59 p.m. Richard had waited patiently as the testing was done and the information was gathered. He was sitting in the Bellagio lounge and slowly ate his meal in silence. A young Drake named Antonio was near him, waiting patiently. He savored the last bite of his meal, and next to his plate his cell phone vibrated wildly. He swallowed the bite and sighed. Hello? Well, husband, did you find out how Brio was killed? Yes. Did you find who did it? Yes. Are they suffering a low-slung death? No. Why not? Anukai. What? And Anukai helped them escape. I believe it was ᶠᶸᶜᵏ. Does not matter, though. We have their blood. A pause answered him. The hesitation on his wife's part was telling. Did you say ᶠᶸᶜᵏ? Yes. Are you sure it's him? There wasn't a Drake had heard of ᶠᶸᶜᵏ. He was legendary, as was the last encounter Richard had had with him. Not 100%, but I know it's him. You said you have the human's blood. Yes. So you're thinking of using the trackers? Yes. Do you think it wise? Does it matter? I suppose not. You do recall what happened last time they were released? I do. I have faith in you, husband, and will leave you to your task. Thank you. He hung up his phone and motioned for Antonio to come closer. Antonio, I need for you to get me a sampling of the blood we got earlier. Antonio nodded and lumbered off. Richard rubbed the temples of his head. He did not want to use the trackers, as they were notoriously unreliable. As smart as they were, it was always difficult to tell if they were actually after the target of choice, or if it was a target of their choice. He was unsure if there was another option. He wondered. He took his phone out again and pressed a single key, and waited. Rapid tones were blaring, barely audible. He waited as the ghostly ringing ran once, and then a familiar voice answered. Richard, what do you need? Dimitri, please give me an update on Tiamat. There was a mixture of excitement and irritation within Dimitri's voice as he quickly answered. We're ready for the final test. Why do you ask? I wonder, if I had the blood of a certain human, what is the chance Tiamat could locate that specific person? Well, I suppose with some slight modification, it could be made to target an individual, which could be used as a tracking device. It depends on how much blood you have. Why? I'm considering using the hunters to track them. Are you serious? You must want them badly if you're considering that. Yes. Well, I can't promise this would work. Tiamat wasn't designed for tracking. Yes, I know. When are you testing primary functionality? Tonight. We're recording and streaming to level 1 servers, if you want to watch. I think I will. I'm very interested in seeing the power levels it generates. I'll have one of the techs text you when we're 30 minutes out. Okay. After the test, see if you can modify the code to allow for tracking. It would be a nice feature to add to the weapon, remote tracking. Agreed. Richard hung up the phone and took a sip of his drink. Another day or so won't change anything. He stood and stretched. Walking out of the lounge, he walked to the front desk. A pretty girl was entering information into one of the terminals. She looked up as he approached. "Can I help you, sir?" He nodded. "Yes. You have my room key, I believe." He showed his ID and she nodded. A few minutes later, he was sitting in a couch, which was large enough to support his size and weight. He had a large black bag with him, and he opened it. Inside were various tools that he always traveled with. He retrieved a small laptop, set it up on a table in front of him, opened the lid. A few seconds passed, and a login screen greeted him. After logging in, he opened a web browser and read the world news. One article caught his attention. It was the breaking story of a massacre in a small town in Mexico called San Martin. He grinned as he read of the mysterious white liquid. White liquid, interesting. Richard flipped his phone up and called Antonio. "Hello? Antonio, I also want some of that white liquid which was found in your room. I need it quickly." "Okay, I'm here now and have the blood. I'll be there within 20 minutes. Richard hung up and continued reading. Nearly 300 men, women, and children were dead, as well as 35 military. The article didn't explain why they were dead, and he rubbed his chin and wondered why there was military there in the first place. He dialed a number and waited. 2 rings and a woman answered. "Hello, this is Brooks." "It's me, Richard. You following this massacre in Mexico?" "You mean the one in San Martin?" "Yes, I am. Why the interest?" "White liquid." "Yes, we have a team there now investigating it. The Mexican government was kind enough to allow us to help." "Why are you interested?" "I'm not sure yet, but I think I may have some of it as well." "So it's a mystery to you also?" "Yes." "What has your team discovered so far?" "Well, there's some rumors it's some sort of miracle." "Miracle?" "Yes. We have some samples or running tests now if you're interested in results." "Yes, I am." "Well, we can play a game then. What do you know of Project Tiamat?" Richard paused. How could this human have ever heard of the project? "There's a mythology story of Tiamat, but I'm unsure of what you mean by Project Tiamat." Richard knew he had to be careful. He didn't want to let anything slip with such an influential human, and yet he needed to know just as much as the woman knew. "Richard, we go way back. You know I have people everywhere. You know there are many among us who would not have nothing to do with Draconians. I'm not one of them. I figure there's enough of the pie to go around. I share with you, you share with me. It's worked well in the past, and I don't see why it'd be any different now." "Roberta, you act as if I actually know something I don't know of a Project Tiamat. Maybe if you told me what you think it is, I can look into it and find out some answers." "Okay, play dumb. I know it's a weapon, and my sources say it's close to being tested. I just want to make clear we know where we stand with each other." "A weapon?" Richard was furious. Someone was going to die a slow, painful death for this leak. "What kind? We're always working on weapons. Weapons make lots of money. You know your military wouldn't be so impressive if we didn't share our development with you. What kind of weapon specifically?" "Some kind of particle beam." Richard relaxed a bit. "Yes, we have a weapon like that. We've been working on it for a few years now. Not sure what the name is. It may be called Tiamat. Not sure, though. I'll have to look into it." "I appreciate that. We'll let you know what we come up with the white liquid." Richard hung up the phone and sighed. Someone leaked Tiamat, and some misleading information. Or perhaps it was a misunderstanding of what they were seeing. Tiamat looked like a particle ray, and could destroy solid matter. It was easy to see how someone would think that that was all it could do. Only a handful of people were present during the early testings, and the unit Richard knew most, and testing of the unit, and Richard knew most of them personally. Of the few he didn't, he'd have to initiate a watch list and find out who was talking. It was too close to completion to let the cat out of the bag. He shrugged and stood. Walking to the bathroom sink, he continued to weigh his options. The humans had gotten away. How, he wasn't sure, but he had his suspicions. He remembered his father telling him about a time when the Anakai moved so fast that he must have been manipulating time. If that was what was happening this time, then the Anakai that was doing it was very powerful. Richard again smiled to himself. He knew of one who was strong enough to be able to perform such a task. "ᶠᶸᶜᵏ, my friend, your tricks won't work next time we meet." He knew that time manipulation was a loaded gun with hair trigger. Many things could go wrong with that form of manipulation. He realized the humans were important in some way, and realized he had power. In that realization, he had power. ᶠᶸᶜᵏ's feelings for them would be his downfall. He walked back to his laptop and grabbed his phone. He dialed and waited. "Yes, Richard. You know I'm trying to finalize the test for Tiamat." "Yes, I am aware. If it wasn't important, I wouldn't interrupt you. And as hard as it is for me to say this, you're probably one of the smartest people I know." "I understand." There was a tone of satisfaction in his voice. Earlier, I had a human, and before I could place hands on them, they vanished. I don't believe it was teleportation. I do suspect it was time manipulation. Impossible. No one can do that, except Anukai. He let the word sink in. Anukai? It has been rumored they can do that, but there are strict laws they follow about modifying the natural balance of things. I would think they would be forbidden even if they could do it. Regardless, I suspect it. What I need to know is how. Anukai possess the natural ability to modify their environment with forces of will. They do this working with a natural flow of energy which surrounds us all. On the crust they were severely limited, something to do with too much noise that the planet generates. On the other dimensions they were able to do many extraordinary things. I don't see how they could be of any threat on this plane. So they use energy. Is there a way we could somehow strip them of their abilities? Or the energy itself? I suppose there is, but without having an Anukai to test on, it would be pure speculation. I do know they need to concentrate while performing their manipulations. This is very well documented. I don't know how the Anukai manipulated time and made off with your targets. That would require a great deal of mental discipline. And if it's ᶠᶸᶜᵏ? What? You've seen him? He's back? No, I haven't, but I'm sure it's him. He's the only one I would bet on to be able to do what you said. The only Anukai I know of who's more able was his father. Why are the Anukai here? Do you think it has something to do with Tiamat? Doubtful. But I do think it has something to do with the Convergence. Now I'm learning of a white liquid. I'll get a sample to your team once we've checked it out. I also have one more question for you. A human just asked me about Tiamat, and he described it as a particle weapon. We have a leak. A long pause and a deep sigh. I have my suspicions. I will check with a few brothers. When I know for sure, I'll let you know. Fair enough. I'll let you get back. Keep the time manipulation in mind. I really want to catch whoever it is, and I want to surprise the hell out of him when his tricks don't work. I'll look into it. Richard hung up, just as a solid knock came on the door. Antonio was standing there with two small black cases. Richard took them and nodded. Antonio turned and stood guard outside the room as Richard closed the door. Sitting down at the table again, he opened both and laid them out. There were two small vials of blood labeled in Draconian. The woman's had much more in it. The vial for Tim had more than enough for the hunters to work with. The other case had a vial of the white liquid. Let's see what you are. Richard carefully opened the vial and gently smelled it. The smell of fresh blood excited him. What the hell? His pulse raced. He hadn't smelled such a pure strain of blood in a long time, and his hands shook with anticipation. How could the liquid smell like blood of someone he had long since killed? He cautiously tipped his pinky in the vial and put a drop on his tongue. His eyes rolled back in his head. The taste filled his mouth. It was warm and perfect. He capped the liquid and placed it back in the case. He rose and opened the door where Antonio was. Please come here. Antonio followed him back to the case. Richard motioned to open the white liquid. Open it carefully and smell it. What does it smell like to you? Antonio did as he was told, and when he opened it, he sniffed. His eyes widened. It smells like great white shark blood. And that's your favorite? Antonio nodded. He stared at the liquid. Get a small cup and taste a bit. Antonio grabbed a small glass and placed a few drops of liquid into it. Go ahead. He sipped and smiled as a deep chill filled his body. When the chill reached the base of his spine, he shivered uncontrollably for a moment. What do you think? Asked Richard. It's perfect. Richard nodded. I want you to contact the team and make sure a good sample of this liquid and the blood gets to Dimitri. I want it there via personal transporter. Get the best and make sure nothing happens to it. Antonio nodded, and Richard packed the liquid back up and closed both cases. He had made a decision not to use the trackers. He's going to wait for Tiamat to get to Tim and ᶠᶸᶜᵏ. The white liquid was interesting, and he knew somehow ᶠᶸᶜᵏ was involved with that as well. It would take some time, and he knew while time was something he didn't have a lot of, he knew that rushing the situation and making brash decisions would not yield the results he was after. Handing the case to Antonio, Richard watched the large man leave. All right. I think I'm going to stop at 33. My eyes are starting to get all wiggity. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. Things are developing rapidly, and we shall see what happens in the next episode of Convergence 2012. Hope you guys are digging this. We are more than halfway through. And we're going to start, things are going to start rapidly happening here. So this is we're on chapter 33, and there is a total of, what did I say last time, 63 total. So yeah, we're making good pace here. So anyway, that's it for now. If you like it, please subscribe. Tell your friends far and wide. Until next time, please, 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 pretty please with a cherry on top. Be good to each other.